Welcome, residents, to our year-ending segment of Talk of the Town. I hope that you've been having a wonderful holiday season, a variety of different holiday celebrations, and we're coming upon very shortly the year-ending New Year's Eve, as well as New Year's event. So please have a great time as we look forward to the new year. As your town supervisor, we've had a number of accomplishments in 2022, especially enabling our growth, was the ability to come out of COVID in a very strong fiscal condition, but also health and welfare of our staff and community is so important. Among some of the major accomplishments during the past year, we did have the completion of some infrastructure development, Old Hopewell Road, the new Hackensack Route 376 roundabout were accomplished and actually ahead of schedule and with excellent results. So we're very proud of the New York State DOT as well as Commissioner Balkine and his crew at County DPW. Special thanks to County Executive Mark Molinaro and his staff, especially Bill O'Neill and Ron Hicks, among others. We really appreciate all that they have done to support us during the year. A key element also of our program was enhancing, coming out of COVID, in order to enhance our recreation programs. We brought on Donna Lenart to take over the responsibilities of DOT as she retired. But in addition, we expanded our facilities improvements, thanks to our board, especially Councilman Casella. We were able to make a lot of improvements, to the ball field complexes and other sports, programs. But also, we had significant activity with our veterans. I just had met with Kevin Hawthorne talking about next year's events, and that's on my list of agenda for this coming year. Last but by no means least, we intensified our code enforcement, addressing many long-standing issues that predated my administration, and this is something that I'll talk about a little bit more as to what we'll be doing during 2023 and beyond. The good news continues to be that we're fiscally in a solid, responsible position. We've been able to manage our revenue inflow and our outflow with costs and expenses, our fund balances, in order to make sure that our services are performed, that we pave our roads, that we provide the programs with respect to our recreation department, our various groups such as our veterans organization, in order to improve the quality of life in the town. This is my strongest commitment to continue that going forward. But we passed the 2023 budget. The board was actively involved. They accepted my tentative budget, the preliminary budget, tweaked the preliminary budget to get a little bit better balance amongst our fund balances, and came out again with one of the lowest tax rates per thousand assessed value in the entire region, as we try to do our job much more fiscally conservatively and responsibly, but without overlooking anything. Our bond ratings continue strong. We're able to use those ratings in order to get cheaper long-term money for major infrastructure programs and going forward. I mentioned a few minutes ago about the agenda, looking forward to what we're going to be doing in 2023 and beyond, because many of these projects are longer term as we look at it. But one of the very important programs that we've done, have been working on, is actually addressing a lot of code non-compliance, where there's businesses, where there are developers, or where there are residents that have failed to abide by, observe our codes. For a long time, we were not able to coordinate well internally. We now have a very strong working relationship amongst nearly all of our departments, especially such as our tax assessors and our building department, which is our code enforcement. At one time, when I came into office, those departments did not communicate. Now we have very strong cooperation and interaction amongst each other. But what's involved is that we have been going out and writing more tickets, looking at the various non-compliance, which causes a lot of health and safety issues. And what's been happening is that many, individuals, but particularly some businesses and some developers, they are more than willing to pay the fines and not correct the problem because the fines and penalties have been set too low in the past. So what's going to happen is that we're going to fix this issue, and we're going to have a workshop in February that will address code changes to strengthen our codes that will enable us to work even more closely with the court. Judge Wolfson and Judge Kitchen have been very cooperative, supportive, but they also, in enforcing the law, need to make sure that the code sections are fully up to snuff. So this is a key priority, to bring a closure to that process that we've begun during the past 2 years as we came out of COVID. Another serious issue that's top on the list for 2023 is to start going through our various drainage issues. We've been doing surveys. We have a couple studies that are about completed, and looking at the infrastructure that is outdated. In fact, a lot of the drainage infrastructure that was created during the housing development boom in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, particularly during the heyday of IBM, is inadequate to support the change of climate, change of water patterns, and even development. And that's where we have been looking even more cautiously at development and developers. We are what we call an MS4 community. That means that the protection of the environment is number one, and we will be audited sometime in the future. But what has happened is not only was the original infrastructure not adequate to control the flow, but with the wetlands being more saturated, we have a lot of wetlands in the town, and the drainage that takes the water off of those wetlands into the creeks. We have Wappinger Creek, we have Sprout Creek, and we have several other smaller ones, such as Hunter's Creek, that feed into the Hudson River. Well, that drainage hasn't been working right. And we have completed the 9-element study of the Wappinger Creek, all the communities along the 47-mile stretch of that. I'm the chair of that committee. We're going to start implementing. What's that mean? It means that we'll be able to start putting in programs, also with grant funding, to slow down the erosion, the sediment that goes in, control more of the chemicals, the leaching of hazardous materials into that area. Similarly, there's a 9-element study that was done for the Sprout Creek. This has been a top priority for me, and to make sure that we can clean up the Sprout Creek, get it dredged, so that we reduce the flooding along the creek and make it a much more scenic recreation area for our local community. So this infrastructure is a core issue. We're also looking at our culverts, the pipes, the outflows, especially that run under our roads. In some cases, because the length, the width of the pipe, it's considered a bridge, so there's two separate funding sources for that. So that's going to be, a top priority as we evaluate. I have a study that's nearing completion on, culverts and bridges. Once we get that done, then we can see how to better do that. We've had historic problems, from old developments where there used to be drainage ditches all filled in, by leaves, debris, pipe outflows that we don't know from where they come, but they're causing significant damage to some of our residents' properties. And then last but not least, in the past, there have been a number of issues relating to our developers and making sure that they complete the project. We have four major developments, four developments that have major problems with them that we're not issuing the COs for until those areas are remediated. So this is a key issue that goes to the quality and safety of our life. So on our agenda, that's going to be quite significant. Related to that is, of course, the ongoing efforts that I have had, our board has fully supported, and our other boards, of preserving our environment. And related to the water issue, we're going to be enacting, I hope, my plan is to enact early this year a water source protection code that will protect the aquifers that are under our town. We had a grant that has submitted final recommendation and reports. We had the briefing to the board a little while back. And so we're going to be enacting new legislation to protect our aquifers. We've worked with Alex Reese and Ober Creek Farm with respect to getting conservation easements, overlays to keep that beautiful acreage from being developed by housing development or any development. Similarly, Carnwath Farms, the 99.7 acres are fully protected, and we have no intention other than to further develop it for the community, such as the community gardens that we have. I'm working with a couple other farmland owners, about conservation easements to protect those farms from further development. So this aspect of what we're looking at is top on the list, and this is especially true of making sure that any developers that want to come to the town observe these and many other features. There's been a lot of discussion about this. I am not in favor of that sort of development, so we're going to be taking a very close look at this going forward. Somewhat also related, continued expansion of our water and sewer infrastructure. This is particularly true in areas where wells have been failing, or septic systems and wells, because the close proximity are no longer compatible with the health and safety requirements that the Department of Health has in both the county and the state DEC have put into place. Recreation, seniors, our veterans, and also our various disadvantaged folks. We're going to be continuing with our build out of the Spook Hill Park. That was much slower over the last year as we came out of COVID because of supply chain problems, but I'm hopeful, unguardedly optimistic that you'll be seeing more rapid movement toward completing that park build out. Another key element that residents talk with me about is highway congestion. And so we have been working with the Dutchess County Transportation Council, NISDOT, DPW, as I mentioned. Commissioner Balkine was in here a month ago, to talk about how do we address and how do we work cooperatively to address the highway congestion and mitigation of that congestion on Route 9 and Route 9D. So stay tuned. We do have some initiatives that are underway, and we'll be looking into this further, and you'll be hearing more about that at our board meetings. Of course, while we're doing all this, it all costs money, so we're looking at a continued fiscal responsibility. Having been a businessman, still am, for over the last 40 years. I've had tremendous experience, and I think the track record shows that we have run this town extremely responsibly. The board and I have been very much in sync with how we provide services and expanded services while at the same time maintaining that fiscal responsibility. So During the new year and the years ahead, I will continue to dedicate and bring my many years of experience and those of our board. We have a very well-seasoned board here in the town of Wappinger. To bring that all to continued improvement of your quality of life, and the safety of the community is paramount. So any questions, please stop by, please schedule a meeting with me. Look forward to hearing from you in the month of January. Our first board meeting in January is generally our housekeeping, what we call reorganization, the standard resolutions, and some not so standard that will come into consideration. February, we'll have a workshop dealing with our various code changes, code compliance to address some of the issues that I mentioned. So until soon, please first have a happy new year, stay safe, and remain well. Thank you, and good day.